I mean, when you go on these international tours, you're like, you start to say, what's the weirdest show we can do? And at the time, this was before The Masked Singer was in the U.S. So it's like they have this show called The Masked Singer, which is huge and stuff, because we're doing that show. We have to go do that show.
My relationship with my father, which was very complicated and difficult. My dad was a very, I come from a middle class, kind of blue-collar home, and my dad was just of that generation, where it's just like, he was Clint Eastwood.
You're probably doing that Hollywood thing where everybody else is just there.
Imagine this. Ryan Reynolds, Hollywood's king of wit and the iconic face of Deadpool, suddenly losing the role to Justin Baldoni. Unthinkable, right? Yet rumors claim things have spiraled even further, with whispers suggesting Blake Lively may have played a role in what's being framed as a shocking behind-the-scenes betrayal. Adding fuel to the fire, Joe Rogan has publicly roasted Reynolds on his podcast, mocking his alleged arrogance and joking that Deadpool's fate was sealed, sparking a global chatter. Fans are now questioning whether Marvel made a massive misstep or if a darker agenda is quietly unfolding as Reynolds' carefully built image, crafted through sharp humor, smart business moves, and years of fan goodwill, appears to be under threat. According to insiders, Marvel may have grown tired of off-screen drama and decided to move on, allegedly handing the R-rated, fourth-wall-breaking anti-hero to Baldoni, an actor-director better known for heartfelt drama than blood-soaked sarcasm, leaving audiences stunned and the future of Deadpool shrouded in controversy. Deadpool has seemingly become the symbol of Ryan Reynolds' most humiliating downfall, as millions listen to a narrative that turned Hollywood's once most bankable star into a global punchline. According to widespread rumors, what began as a personal feud between Reynolds, Blake Lively, and Justin Baldoni spiraled out of control, with claims that Reynolds took on-screen jabs at Baldoni by slipping a parody into Deadpool itself, a move Marvel allegedly did not tolerate. As tensions escalated, legal teams reportedly stepped in and the studio drew a hard line, ultimately parting ways with Reynolds, a decision that was made even more brutal by Joe Rogan's relentless public roasting, portraying Reynolds as arrogant and incapable of managing his own legacy. Once celebrated as the charming, quick-witted superstar behind a billion-dollar franchise, Reynolds suddenly found himself mocked worldwide, while insiders claim Blake Lively was blindsided by the fallout, rushing into emergency PR mode amid speculation over whether she believes Marvel and Baldoni conspired against her husband or secretly resents him for dragging the feud into public view, even raising questions about strain on their marriage. As Reynolds faces the loss of Deadpool and potential damage to other projects and brand deals, Baldoni, once a secondary figure, now stands at the center of a billion-dollar franchise, with Hollywood watching closely to see if he can truly carry the Deadpool legacy. The alleged involvement of Lively, the amplification by Rogan, and Marvel's decisive actions have created a perfect storm of scandal, power plays, and career upheaval, turning what looked like a simple casting decision into a complex web of betrayal, public spectacle, and high-stakes consequences that could reshape careers, relationships, and the rules of celebrity influence itself.
Doing that Hollywood thing where everybody else is just there for you.
Reynolds' rumored downfall.
Personality type 1 through 9. Well, Ryan Reynolds on the Enneagram is a psycho. That's what he is. He's just a psycho. His number is psycho. Reading through the script, and he just decided, okay, you know what? This entire production needs to be halted. I don't trust my wife.
Ryan Reynolds now finds himself on the outside looking in after being sidelined by Marvel. And for the moment, his silence speaks louder than any statement. He has offered no response to the swirling Marvel rumors, no reply to Joe Rogan's brutal public takedown, and no acknowledgement of Blake Lively's alleged anger, leaving Hollywood watching closely to see whether this is a temporary setback or the beginning of a dramatic fall for one of its biggest stars. While Reynolds remains quiet, the Deadpool franchise is reportedly moving forward without the man who built it. A stunning turn for an actor whose charm, razor-sharp humor, and business instincts turned him into a box office icon and made Deadpool inseparable from his identity. He fought to get the first film made, shaped the character's voice, and became the heartbeat of the franchise, which is why rumors that he has been fired have sent shockwaves through the industry. Adding to the disbelief is the claim that the role has been handed to Justin Baldoni, an actor known for heartfelt, uplifting dramas rather than Deadpool's sarcastic, R-rated chaos, a move many fans still struggle to accept. As if losing the role that defined his career were not enough, Reynolds is also facing widespread public humiliation after Joe Rogan's merciless podcast rant, where he accused Reynolds of letting ego ruin his career, mocked his alleged arrogance, and joked that he had Deadpooled himself out of Hollywood. Millions listened, social media erupted, and what was already a shocking story has grown into a full-scale spectacle, leaving the world waiting to see what Ryan Reynolds will do next and whether he can reclaim the legacy that now appears to be slipping away. What started as industry buzz quickly took on a life of its own as fans struggled to process the once unthinkable idea that Ryan Reynolds could be pushed out of Deadpool. He wasn't just another star, he was one of Marvel's most valuable assets with unmatched social media influence, viral humor, and promotional instincts that made him seem untouchable. Yet as reports piled up, doubts began to grow, with insiders claiming Marvel executives had been frustrated for months over escalating creative clashes about Deadpool's place in the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe. What allegedly began as minor disagreements reportedly intensified as Reynolds was seen as increasingly unwilling to compromise on the franchise's direction, with some accounts suggesting he crossed a line by using Deadpool's persona to publicly mock Justin Baldoni, a move said to mark the beginning of the end. In an industry built on power plays and behind-the-scenes maneuvering, the feud was no longer private and became a liability Marvel could not ignore. Blake Lively was reportedly pulled into the turmoil as well, amid whispers of growing tension with Baldoni, and the collision of personal rivalries and professional conflict ultimately created a perfect storm that left Reynolds sidelined and his iconic role placed under new control.
But as I've gotten a little bit older, I sort of I'm lucky that I get to work in this industry, and particularly incredibly fortunate that I get to work in it this long. But I really want to work with people that are either immensely talented or people that I love and that I'm genuinely best friends with. And unfortunately, Hugh does not qualify as either of those. But I am excited because I'm a Logan fan. So and then that covers Will Ferrell as well. That's a guy that
As of now, Ryan Reynolds remains completely silent, offering no denial of the swirling rumors, no response to Joe Rogan's sharp criticism, and no acknowledgement of allegedly losing Deadpool, a quiet that in Hollywood can be more dangerous than any statement. With each passing day, speculation grows louder, and Reynolds' options narrow. He can publicly push back and try to regain control of the narrative, or step away from Deadpool altogether and attempt to rebuild his brand elsewhere, knowing that the longer he waits, the more the story hardens without him. The industry is no longer just questioning whether he was fired, but whether this signals the beginning of the end of his career, a far more unsettling possibility. When scandals of this scale erupt, stars usually confront them head-on or stay silent and hope they fade. Yet Reynolds appears trapped between both choices, where speaking risks validating the worst rumors, and silence suggests he has no defense. Marvel's own silence only fuels the fire, as the studio has made no effort to shut down the speculation, while Justin Baldoni is quietly rising as the rumored new face of the franchise. Though once known mainly for heartfelt dramas far removed from an R-rated, wisecracking anti-hero, Baldoni now finds himself at the center of Marvel's next big gamble, echoing past casting risks that once seemed impossible but proved wildly successful. As Hollywood moves forward, the threat for Reynolds becomes increasingly real. Once Marvel officially announces a new Deadpool, the debate will end. Baldoni will be cemented in fans' minds, and Reynolds will be pushed into the background, with Joe Rogan's relentless public takedowns only magnifying the damage and turning this moment into a defining crossroads for his career. Joe Rogan has amplified the fallout 100-fold, not simply reporting the story, but tearing Ryan Reynolds apart in front of millions of listeners and framing the collapse of his career as entirely self-inflicted. According to Rogan, Reynolds let his ego get the best of him, grew overconfident, believed he was untouchable, pushed boundaries too far, and failed to realize that Marvel could replace him at any moment, turning him into a cautionary tale of a superstar who flew too high and crashed hard. In an industry driven by perception, that narrative has been devastating, because whether it is fully true or not almost no longer matters. The damage is already done, and the prevailing story is that Reynolds got himself fired from Deadpool by letting personal drama spiral out of control. Meanwhile, sources claim Blake Lively is furious, with some saying she is working frantically behind the scenes to repair Ryan's reputation and restore Marvel's trust, while others insist she feels betrayed by the studio, and still others suggest her anger may actually be directed at Ryan himself for creating the chaos in the first place. Adding to the tension are persistent rumors about Lively's own feud with Justin Baldoni, which some believe may have been the spark that ignited the entire situation, meaning Reynolds may not have just lost Deadpool, but lost it as a consequence of choices that spiraled far beyond his control. What may have begun as a personal dispute with no direct connection to his career has reportedly spiraled into a crisis, now straining Ryan Reynolds' marriage as well. Because Hollywood power couples don't weather conflict in private. They do it under a relentless spotlight, where every appearance, project, or silence is dissected for hidden meaning. A distant look at an event can trigger divorce rumors. A solo project by Blake Lively can be framed as stepping out of his shadow, and a lack of public defense can be seen as the final blow. At the same time, the industry is watching with cold precision, because Hollywood is ruthless. One day you're untouchable, the next you're expendable. Reynolds, once a guaranteed box office draw, is now facing a rare and brutal public fall, forcing studios to reassess the risk of working with him and raising uncomfortable questions about precedent. If Marvel can sideline Ryan Reynolds, what does that mean for every other star who pushes boundaries? As the industry machine grinds forward without pause, the Deadpool franchise barrels ahead, and Justin Baldoni is reportedly being embraced as its new face, while Marvel shows no sign of looking back. Reynolds is left trapped in a lose-lose scenario where silence makes him appear guilty, speaking out risks confirming rumors, denial could provoke the studio, and confronting Joe Rogan would be unwinnable. With every passing day, the damage deepens, and now, standing at a crossroads between a desperate fight to salvage his career and a slide into irrelevance, it increasingly feels like Hollywood may have already made the choice for him.